Hello, and welcome to Smarter Than the Inbox, AI for real email results. My name is Natalie Lynch, and I'm a Principal Product Manager with Cinch MailJet. Now at MailJet, we focus on making emails smarter and easier. That means easier to send, easier to grow, and easier to engage. We work to connect those who need email marketing to the tools that make it simple. So naturally, we started integrating AI into our product. Today, we're going to talk about an evolution in technology that is shaping what easier really means for email marketing. We're going to talk about the MCP connector. Now, hopefully we all remember MySpace. It was the glitter, it was the chaos, it was the playlist that defined us. It was a custom profile that told the world who we were, and perhaps most importantly, who our top 8 friends were. It wasn't only that it was a brand new social media that made MySpace catch on, it was the first time social media allowed us to connect through customization. It wasn't the technology, it was the connection. MySpace gave us control, a sense of ownership, and the freedom to show up as ourselves, long before the algorithm started to do it for us. Email marketing, it works in a lot of the same ways. The inbox is crowded, and we all have access to the same send button. So the difference between opens and clicks and unsubscribes and deletes is whether the message feels like it's for everyone or if it's for just me. So just as social media has evolved from static profiles to personalized experiences, email has too. Email marketing started with batch and blast. We then moved on to incorporate other tools: segmentation, automation, personalization. The tools available to us, they're changing every day. And now, well, AI has entered the chat. Our toolkits now include subject line generators, image creators, and content assistants. All of these are developed to help the creative flow. They evolve our messaging, they improve our productivity, and they help us send emails that connect. But AI and email marketing hasn't stopped evolving. So today, as we talk about the next evolution, the MCP connector, the question I want you to ask yourself is, will the MCP connector make your top 8? Now, before you go and answer that question, let's start with what an MCP connector is. It stands for Model Context Protocol. But with this one, I think we're safe to just remember the acronym, because what it really means to us is much simpler. The MCP connector is AI that speaks to us like, well, marketers, not calculators. Think back to the era of burned CDs. They're sliding around your passenger seat, they're stuffed into your visor, and we're flipping through them at the red lights just so we can change the song. We all had Discmans and burned CDs, and most of us, well, we were still driving cars with cassette decks. We'd already moved on to a new format. So in response, the market, it gave us an adapter. It was a cassette with a little wire that plugged into our Discman. It bridged the gap between our old systems and our new formats. That's what the MCP connector is doing for AI and email marketing today. It's taking the data from our email marketing, from our analytics, and it's connecting it to our AI assistants. And with this connection, we can now use natural language to ask questions and get insights immediately. So the bridge means we're no longer having to dig through dashboards or download, store, interpret all of these Excel files. We can just start with our questions. Which reactivation email performed best this quarter? And bam, almost instantly, we have our answer. A ranked list of campaigns with open rates and conversions, a summary of what worked and why it worked. The MCP connector, it's connecting our tools, but more importantly, it's connecting our questions to the answers that already live in our systems. Think of it as a translator, an adapter between our existing tools and the outcomes we're aiming for. Now, we already have incredible data sources. We have data from our email service providers, our CRMs, and all the tools that we use for analytics. Right now, they all live in silos. The MCP is starting to bridge that gap. It lets AI have the full picture of our marketing story without requiring us to manually move the data around. Let's say we want to know which welcome email generated the most conversions from our new subscribers in the first week of the workflow. Well, normally that would mean cross-referencing data sources, adjusting filters, interpreting what the screen is telling us. With the MCP, we can simply ask the question and let AI find the pattern. It's the connector that can be our bridge. So, how does MCP actually change the way we interact with our email marketing data? Who remembers the Rolodex? We're flipping through, we're trying to find the right contact. Fast forward, now you can proclaim, "Call mom," and the nearest smart device will connect you automatically. We don't even have to scroll through our contacts on our phones. We can just ask. So that's what the MCP connectors do for email marketing. They let us just ask. Right now, after every send, we dig through reports. We click through charts. We try to decode how a campaign connected, how it converted, maybe how it fell flat. This is how we measure success. The reporting cycle, it allows us to spot trends, tie campaigns back to initiatives, and ROI. This is the part of email marketing that helps us shape our strategies and understand what needs to come next. Now, all of this work matters. Without it, we'd be making blind decisions in content, in audiences, and in strategy. But all of this work can also take a lot of time. How many of us have spent an entire afternoon staring at two graphs, trying to play spot the difference? MCP connectors means that we don't have to do that anymore. Instead of starting with, 10 different dashboards waiting for them to load, we just ask our questions. We can ask, what campaign performed best last month, last quarter, last year? We can tell our AI chat buddies what we mean when we say performed best, and then we can ask it to evaluate our campaigns against that definition. And it will, fast. And that's where it really starts changing our workflows. We get the answers so fast, we have time to keep going, to ask more questions. We can analyze our data, our campaigns, all of it, at the same pace we're asking our questions, which means we don't have to stop at what worked. We can start exploring why it worked. So instead of stopping at one answer, because our time resources are the most limited resources we have, we can ask follow-ups. We can start having intentional dialogues with our data instead of just single transactions. So this is where it gets fun. Once we start asking questions, we're going to start realizing how much untapped intelligence sits quietly in our systems. So imagine you're planning a re-engagement campaign and need to know what content will pull the customer in based on where they stopped engaging. Instead of pulling CSVs or building pivot tables, you can just ask. We can ask what campaigns or contacts didn't connect, what content had the lowest engagement, what links saw the least clicks. Now, we're no longer reacting to performance or steering it. And this is key. When data becomes conversational, we have space to experiment. You could ask your ESP anything right now. Without having to dig into any of the data, what would it be? Maybe you just want a simple answer. What automation isn't performing the way we wanted to or expected it to in the last 90 days? Maybe we're trying to dig a little bit deeper to inform our strategy. What is the unsubscribe rate for customers who join through discount codes versus organic signups by region? Or maybe it's something as simple as being in a meeting and needing an answer that you just don't have. What was the conversion rate of that campaign we ran in spring this year? Every one of those answers already exists in our data. So often we just don't have time to find it. Sometimes it just takes too much digging and too much exploring. Well, the juice just doesn't feel like it's worth the squeeze. MCP connectors remove the friction. It's the friction between curiosity and clarity. It makes room for the what if questions. It allows us to explore data and how that data would shape our strategy if we finally had more time in the day. It makes room for us to consider the questions instead of the reports we have to build. Even better, and possibly my favorite part, is that we can take all of those answers and ask our chat buddies to build us a concise slide deck on last quarter's campaign results so we can effectively communicate it with the rest of our team. This means MCP isn't just changing the way we talk to our data, but can change the way we communicate with our teams. Now we have consistency across teams without having to be experts in every area. This is likely even more valuable if you don't have a full team. If you are the data team, you are the marketing team, and the design team. You don't have to be an expert in everything to get meaningful data to drive your strategy in a meaningful way. Whether it's cross-functional or you are the function, MCP allows us to communicate with data in a way that levels us all up. With MCP connectors, bridging the gap between our current data sources and natural language, what used to take us hours or days can happen quickly. We type our questions, we hit enter, and we let AI do the work, eliminating afternoons of downloads, sorts, filters, and slide decks. But we still have the same insights. And we can still take it further. With MCP sitting between our existing tools and AI, we have access to industry best practices. We can combine our data and those best practices to help us improve deliverability, spot problems in our send that we might not be seeing. This can give us detailed tips on how to connect with our audiences while improving our deliverability. MCP sits between our existing tools and it lets them talk to each other. This is less exporting, less cleaning, less reconciling of data, and more time to actually make decisions. For email marketing, that means faster optimization for our content, smarter testing for our sends, and measurable growth above all else. Can you imagine what you would do with all the extra time? Just being able to ask which segment has the highest long-term value. And the answer just magically appears. We want to see signs earlier so we can spot flops faster. We want to be able to engage in early signs of success. We want live context to ensure we have the ability to pivot fast and pivot before that flop has eaten up our entire budget. We simply want operational sanity. When we know what's not working faster, we can invest in what is working faster. MCP connectors are helping us cut down on the lead time to decisions. They're breaking down data silos not just between tools, but between teams. And they're doing something I've been wishing for a long time. They're giving us more time back in the day. Now, before we run out and start connecting MCP connectors to everything, our ESPs, our CRMs, maybe even the office toaster, let's take a second and talk about the flip side. AI, well, it's a powerful tool. It's likely that everyone here has experienced how effective a tool it can be. But it can also be wrong, confidently. We've spent our careers building intuition about tone, timing, and human reaction. That instinct doesn't vanish now that we have LLMs creating a chart. And the power is when instinct and insight meet in the middle. Because AI will give us all the answers we've ever wanted, sometimes to questions we haven't even asked. Remember Clippy? It was the cheerful little paperclip that sat on the side of our screen telling us that we really shouldn't use really shouldn't when we could just use shouldn't. Clippy never quite captured the concept of tone. And AI can be the same way. No matter what tools we use to improve our overall email strategy, it's still up to us to interrogate the data. And no matter what, we need to resist the urge to copy and paste from one window to the next. AI and MCP can automate the data collection, the downloads, the rank stacked lists, but we still need to understand the information it's giving us. AI cannot replace our decision making. That part, no matter what we're using it for, should always be human. It's tempting to treat MCP and AI like a magic 8-ball. Install it, ask it a question, take its advice, and overnight, our campaigns are performing way better than we ever thought. But if we don't take the time to understand the data that is driving our strategy, we risk creating a gap in that strategy. AI is a tool, and you might eventually get a nail into the wall using a screwdriver. You'll never have the same results if you don't use a hammer. Imagine asking, what time of the day does my audience most often open my emails? And then building your entire campaign around Tuesday at 10 a.m. The tool gave us an answer. But does the answer really help us inform our strategy in a way that will meaningfully connect with our audience or grow the engagement? To make better decisions, we need to make sure we're asking AI the right questions for our use cases. And maybe that's just something like, how does send time impact conversions over time? So the first question, it gave us trivia. The second question helped us shape our strategy. Maybe the key to improving your strategy is to improving deliverability. So instead of asking, how is a campaign performing, we're asking about block rates and bounce rates. And then we're asking how to fix it. When AI gives you an answer, just as you might with a coworker, never hesitate to ask how it got that answer. Because we're connecting all of our data with the immense knowledge of AI, so we can also expand our questions beyond our data into best practices and industry sources. Now, even without AI, we need to be asking the right questions to inform our strategy. So we want to make sure that we hold that true to that standard as we integrate AI into our workflows. And we need to be very careful of over-personalization. Now, we all want relevance in our emails. We want the connection with our audience. We want it to feel personal based on their experience with our brand. With access to this much data that fast, there will come a temptation to use every data point we have. But we should always remember there is a line. And over-indexing, well, it can backfire. Customers notice when personalization crosses from thoughtful to invasive. It's the difference between, hey, I saw you bought sneakers yesterday, so I thought you might like these socks. And, hey, so you walked past our store at 3:12 yesterday, so it seems like you might have time this afternoon to browse our summer sale. We want to build trust, not get ignored, or possibly unsubscribed. We've all seen the creepy side of personalization. Google a pair of shoes, and every ad now knows your shoe size. Not personalization, that's surveillance. And the best experiences should feel intuitive more than invasive. MCP gives us the insight, but we need to decide how to apply it responsibly. Again, the goal is connection, not surveillance, and that's where the balance matters. MCP, it's powerful, but it needs boundaries. We want to let the answers inform our strategy, but not replace it altogether. Real impact comes from what we do with the information, with the decisions we make, and with the actions we follow through on. AI should be for automating the laundry, not for writing the poetry. So, how do we get ready for what's coming next? Every leap in marketing technology has helped us ask better questions about our audiences, about the stories we tell. MCP, it isn't any different. AI is helping us ask better questions so we can keep crafting better stories. We want to turn all of the questions and curiosity into capability, and to make sure the next phase of our strategy is not just faster, but smarter. But as we start to incorporate AI-powered tools into our workflows, we want to do so effectively. So just like any good email campaign, we're going to start with a goal. What decisions do you actually need to make? What insights would actually move you forward in a meaningful way? What answers have you been longing for, but have never had the time to explore? You're going to set a goal for your integration, but it doesn't have to be huge. Maybe you just want to understand one customer journey a little bit more clearly, or simplify one report. The true magic in all of this isn't the AI, it's in the small, measurable steps we can take to prove AI can make life easier without making it fully robotic. With that goal in mind, we're going to reimagine one workflow and resist the urge to overhaul everything. Pick that one thing that slows you down or becomes a blocker, like a monthly report, and all the details that go into building it. Reimagine that workflow with just a question. Ask our chat AI buddies to build a clear and concise deck that helps you internally communicate the relevant stats from last month's campaigns. Whatever this process is for you, the process that eats up your entire afternoon when you wish you could be moving on, that's your proof of concept for implementing MCP. Take just one process and connect it to the MCP in a meaningful way to change the way you communicate with your data. Once we have that workflow rebuilt and our afternoons back, we can start to integrate further. To make sure MCP connectors help us inform our strategy in a meaningful way, we want to make sure, well, our data is clean. If we have messy data in our ESPs or our CRMs, the MCP will only shine a light on that disconnect. Not even artificial intelligence can find meaning in what's inconsistent or incomplete, but it'll happily tell us it did. So, as always, we start with the basics. We align fields, create consistent tagging, and make sure the data we're providing AI is accurate. Think of it in the same way we segment our campaigns before we launch. If our segments are a mess, even the best strategy won't land us in the right inbox. Clean data doesn't only make for better answers, it makes for faster learning, makes for clearer patterns, and it makes for more competent decisions. And with a strong foundation, AI can actually amplify what's in our work instead of confusing it. MCP connectors don't change what we do in email marketing. They change how fast we can do it, how quickly we can learn, iterate, and adapt our messaging. It turns slow reporting cycles into real-time understanding and good instincts into sharper strategies. When insight moves at the speed of curiosity, our campaigns get smarter. The best campaigns, they don't come from dashboards. They come from questions, experiments, and stories. So we're going to start small. We're going to see how fast an idea can become insight, and how fast that insight can become action. And through it all, well, we're going to stay human because AI cannot make the decisions, not all of them. We're going to let AI handle the busy work so that we can focus on what truly connects. And we know what connects. It's creativity that speaks to our audience. We've gone from dial-up to fiber, from burn CDs to streaming, from batch and blast to personalization. The tools have changed, but the goal, it's still about connection. The connection between our brands and our customers. That connection will always be driven by curiosity, by finding clarity in the data, and by letting it all drive our instincts. The MCP is the next adapter in the story, the bridge between what we know, what we've always wanted to know, what we can finally ask. So as we step into the next chapter of email marketing and AI, let's make sure AI amplifies our voices rather than letting it replace them. Because in the end, AI doesn't make marketing smarter. Marketers do. MCP just helps us do it faster. Now, if you want to stay connected, feel free to find me on LinkedIn or catch me on MailJet's very own email marketing academy. But for now, let's move into some Q&A.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending Natalie's session. I'm Cheryl Gates. I'm a senior manager at Guru Media Hub on the media team. Please be sure to participate in the poll on the right of the screen, and you'll also find a free offer pinned to the chat. The deck for today's presentation, along with the AI recap, will also be available at the bottom of the screen if you scroll down. Thanks so much, Natalie. That was awesome. We have lots of great questions that came in during the session, several on the MCP connectors. So that was definitely a hot topic. So you ready to jump in?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's see. I'm just hearing about MCP for the first time and I'm excited about the potential. How can I get started? Who might I turn to implement a partner on implementation?
Yeah, if you're looking to connect your MCP and MCP server to your ESP, I would start with whatever ESP you have. A lot of them are developing it. Model Context Protocol is a new technology, so people are racing to market with these connectors. So check the documentation, and it's a pretty easy setup from there. You just start exploring with the AI, and it takes no time at all to get started.
The next person, so it's obviously new to me. Is there a cost associated with using it? And again, how do I get started? Which we obviously just addressed.
Yeah, the only cost that's going to be really associated with it for the consumer is whatever AI you're connecting to. So MailJet has it set up with Claude, so it's going to be that monthly subscription for our AI that we're using. That's going to be the only fee for it. Otherwise, it's mostly like connecting to an API. There's no additional cost.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Many ESPs don't have MCP connections. So is there a way to solve this?
Yeah, so like I said, it's a newer one to the market. So we're starting to see them hit the market. Within the last few months, I've seen a majority of the competitive email marketing ESPs that we know come out with them, and more coming soon. So I would say keep an eye on it because it's likely that your ESP will have it soon.
It'll just keep on evolving. It's probably changing monthly. Okay, let's see. What's a way to use AI for testing that doesn't create more work?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way of doing it. The thing I love to use the most with email marketing and AI, especially being able to pull it in, is identifying what you should A/B test. So you can really look at that content, especially with something like looking at your email marketing through an AI like GPT or Claude that allows you to say like what is my highest click through rate on campaigns over the last 6 months, and that really lets you in an ordered list see what performed the best and then kind of start A/B testing on the top 2 or 3 or 4 to see if you can't increase that engagement. Same with open rates, click through rates, things like that. Really being able to create that ring stack list quickly and then iterate on that with A/B testing.
How do we know when to override an AI suggestion?
I would say use your instinct. I mean, it's the same way when we look at AI photos, you can kind of just tell something's off. I always like to joke that you should treat AI like you treat your coworkers, ask it how it figured that out, because the why behind it is important too. And AI will tell you if you ask it, how did you come to that answer? Show your
Mhm.
work. Interrogate the answer like you would a human giving you an answer.
How do we keep AI from copying competitors and looking generic?
Yeah, I think you want to be a lot more specific when you're giving suggestions to AI. So often you can say something like, "I want a newsletter on this." But if you're like, "Hey, like my brand has this tone and it has this," really give it those details. Honestly, I keep it in a copy and paste for every time I want to generate something new with my brand tone, my precise messaging. Even, I mean, if you're creating actual content, you can get as specific as padding. If you're in like a template generator or something, you can tell it those specifics and it can really hone in on your brand specifically.
Let's see. How are you keeping your proprietary data safe when you connect to an MCP?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely important to look at which AI chat buddy you're using. So something like Claude does not actually train on the conversations, and most AIs don't train, but validate that. And then most of them, like MailJets, does it on local, so it's not the web service, and that makes a difference too because of data transfers. So I would definitely make sure you read those terms and conditions to make sure they're not training on chat data before you connect your ESP data to it.
Let's see. We have time, I think, for a couple more. Do you have to use the OOB data set or can you use a targeted data sets? For example, we have a curated click data extension where I remove the bot clicks from our standard measures that would be better for evaluations.
Yeah, I would use that set absolutely. And depending on your ESP, it might automatically pull that in. I know with MailJet's MCP server, we automatically pull in the bots removed.
Okay. So let's see. Is there an AI data prompt that was an aha moment for you?
I think the biggest aha moment was realizing I could get all the analysis done, and then I could be like, put it on a slide deck for me. That one is big because it just saves so much time copying and pasting, and I have the rough draft ready to go and a link I can share out. So that's my aha! Wow! I just saved myself so many hours on PowerPoint moment that I keep going back to.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Your session was fabulous. We certainly appreciate it. Again, thank you everybody for attending Natalie's session. Please be sure to participate in the poll to the right of the screen. You'll also find the free offer pinned to the chat, and the deck along with the AI recap is also available at the bottom of the screen if you scroll down. And thanks again, Natalie, for being here
Thank you
today.
for having